most basic ways to alter a wig is to change the texture or direction of the part and kind of make the hair go into a different movement pattern than what it currently has. This is a synthetic fiber, and synthetic fibers are more heat sensitive, so we're going to be working with a steam heat. The difference with steam heat versus dry heat is that the wetness of that heat acts as a buffer so that it doesn't scorch the fiber. If you were to use a dry heat, like from a flat iron or a blow dryer, you run the potential of overheating in certain areas, and what that does is it makes the fiber kind of sizzle up. So applying too much heat is going to actually damage your fiber permanently. Whereas a steam heat, it only gets to a certain point and then it can't go beyond that point because that's just not the properties that the water has. So we're going to be using a professional steamer model. This is the Jiffy J2. There are several other steamers on the market that will work. You don't have to use a professional model. Travel steamers aren't typically going to have enough wattage to really push enough power through them to get a directional flow going. This one has a really nice directional steam so that it's very concentrated and it's very, very powerful. So there are some on the market, like the Power Sharks and things like that, that do have a directional burst spray that work very well. We're using a rubber head, and I'm just going to stick a couple of T-pins in the top so she doesn't move around on me while I'm working on her. Okay. The only thing that we're really going to do to this is I like this curl pattern, but I don't necessarily like where it's parted in the middle. What I want to do is create more of a swoop style bang. So what I'm going to do is take this side and kind of push it over and make sure that this hair is coming forward, and so it kind of sweeps around the front rather than being so blunt right down the middle. So I'm just going to decide where I want that part to be. This is a really nice trick too. Sometimes commercial wigs have a really harsh, straight center part. This is another really good trick for obscuring that center part and making it look a little more natural. If you put a little bit of a zigzag, everybody typically has a little bit of an element that's not perfectly straight to their hair. So putting in a little bit of a zig to it will help it be more realistic. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this hair right here directionally come forward. Now I'm going to set this where I parted it kind of off to the side for now, because I want this to kind of come forward and be more part of the bang section. And all I'm going to do is just hit it with a little bit of steam heat, and it already is pushing that hair in that direction and setting it. Now, the thing to remember with synthetics is that they set when they cool. It's not like human hair, it's not responsive to water, it's responsive to heat. So just because your hair does certain things when it's wet, the synthetics won't do certain things when it's wet. It only reacts to that heat. So right now it's still cooling a little bit, but you can already see this hair is much more in her face. So then, this is where that part was. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hair and now I'm going to comb these two sections together and direct them forward, because that's going to create that swoop needs to come down towards the front and then be pushed over to the side. Be careful not to direct too much at the base, otherwise you'll really flatten it out and make it kind of harsh looking. You want to just put just enough to keep the lift up, because you don't want to be plastered to the head like it's gelled, just enough to kind of push it forward so that they're nice and together. See, now you're missing that center part. There's no split. This center part is a little more raised than I'd like it, so I'm just going to pull it down a little bit and hit it with a little more heat so that it lays down. If you blow on it a little bit, it kind of pushes that heat out so that it cools more quickly. So now, we're already starting to see that swoop piece take place. The next thing I'm going to do is just put a bend in it right about here so that it naturally wants to give that flow. So otherwise it's going to be naturally wanting to hang straight down in the face. So what I want to do is I want to comb it perfectly straight, or at least get the fiber going in the same direction. We still want this little bend in here. But right here, we want to create another bend. let that cool in there. And there you have it. Another wig styling basic is to remove some of the length off an already pre-styled wig. Today we're going to take off a bit of this layering down below and make it into a shorter, more shoulder length style wig. So the one thing that you have to remember is that most wigs are built with a track system rather than being rooted like your own natural hair. So if you can see that, they're made with a lot of lines. If you were to cut this, just to cut it very bluntly with shears like you normally would your hair, what you would end up seeing is a lot of lines popping through, and it would look very unnatural and very rigid. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through and give it a more reasonable cut so that you don't see any of those lines of demarcation. So what you're going to do is you're going to start from the bottom, just like a normal haircut. You're going to pull out your lower section. It becomes very easy because it already has the partings laid out in it for you. Put that up and out of the way. And for our tools, we're going to use a razor rather than shears. Know that if you're doing any wig work, regardless of whether it's human hair or synthetic, it will dull your shears or any of your blades. Okay, from here, I'm just going to grab a section. I like to start in the middle and work my way out to the sides. That way I have a better idea where I want to go. I'm working with pretty large sections. You don't need to really necessarily do it too small. The main thing is you don't want to pull, because pulling is going to pull these tracks down. So you want to make sure that your grip is fairly relaxed. A little bit shorter than that. Do about there. I'm going to take my razor and just come in from the sides and just kind of bounce it along right here. Now what this is going to do is it's going to create a very uneven line. So I'll show you what the hair that's being removed looks like so you can get an idea of what that line should look like. So this is what my line looks like. It's very, very not straight. So we're just going to continue doing that. And what that's going to allow for is you're not going to have any real sharp lines that you'll be able to see where there's like, oh, well, there's a wig track that's separating from the next wig track, so you'll see like blunt, blunt, blunt. It'll look very steppy almost. So we're just going to continue working around like that, and then we'll continue moving out the head. Once you get your main cut with your razor in place, you can always go back and clean it up with your shears. It's just not a good idea to do the bulk of your work with your shears because it won't give you that soft graduation. Always check your symmetry because there's no going back. Once you cut it, it's permanent.